first is your floodplain management ordinance. We just got that updated. It's all good. So we don't need an updated ordinance. I think that was May, June that was adopted.
Oh, that's fine.
So, do you have a complete set of all currently effective flood maps and studies?
We have a set of maps. I don't know, studies. We've also got digital copies of that where you can zoom in.
Yeah. Do they need a copy of the FIS or?
They don't have to have one locally, as long as they've got access to it digitally, it's fine. Most communities do have the hard copy maps available when they were first issued. FEMA sent you copies, those should be retained because sometimes you get any questions of, was it the floodplain at the time of construction?
Okay.
In the case of Schneider, it's really not an issue because the entire town's in the floodplain.
Right. Yeah.
As mapped.
Right.
Are you guys using GIS for your maps? Like with either of our mapping sites or the FEMA Map Service Center? Or are you just using the maps there?
I mean, I've been to so Lake County, Indiana has a GIS that we use a lot.
So they have all the flood mapping in there?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
But for flood mapping, I usually go to the FEMA site.
Okay.
And this is where those came from. But I didn't know if you wanted us to have a hard copy. I think we weren't sure where the original maps were, so. And then also use the Indiana website you pointed us to where you can.
Yeah, the flood information portal, where you can do that fair up.
Right, where it's now version 2.1. But usually the whole town is in a floodplain.
Yeah,
So
so it's not a huge deal, but when you're looking for like BFE and that, then, okay. Do you feel like you have a good understanding of how to use the maps in studies?
Well, we look at elevations.
Yeah. And do you use any other maps in addition to FEMA maps, like our best available layer?
Yeah.
Do you have any problems? Not a huge issue, it's just like a town's maps. Have your corporate limits changed?
When did we annex north of town? Was that a decade ago? I mean, they haven't changed recently.
It's been more than a decade.
Yeah. So.
I think our maps would show that would be up to like that elevator way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your map
Yeah,
shows.
so
that.
all the maps are there. How are you ensuring that all necessary state and federal permits are being obtained for projects when they're required? Like septic permits, Clean Water Act through IDEM and Army Corps.
We haven't had cause to look into any of that since I've been here, so.
I think we're in the process of creating the process for that.
Yeah. Which, because a lot of this is going to look for the same deficiencies we had last year, so a lot of things we're going to be looking at, asking questions about things that are in those issues and are working on.
Yeah. So I think we know we need to have some sort of a form that you can go through that identifies what is needed, or like a decision tree, a little like diamond arrow type thing.
Yeah.
But we don't do a lot of new construction. Like, I think our last residential new construction house was like 9 years ago. So it's mostly
post fences,
Yeah,
replacing rotten decks, you know, an accessory structure, a garage or something along those lines.
Yeah, most of your permits, from what we've seen as we're driving around, most of your permits are gonna require that you do a substantial improvement determination,
Right.
where they're doing a remodel or improvement on the existing structure.
yeah,
So you guys compare the cost of that with the present.
We'd like to discuss that a little bit for some more clarity. I don't know if now is the time to do that, or you wanna finish and come back to that.
We should probably come
Let
back
that
to
hang out,
that.
right?
I think you sent me over a process for it yesterday.
yeah,
I was out of the office, but
Yeah.
I got that, so we can talk about it now, or I'll get to it.
yeah.
next week. So, how familiar are you with the letters of map change? We've kind of talked about that for at least one site. That way, up north, possibly,
Yeah,
they could qualify for that'd be a Loma, or Loma,
Be a little long.
a Loma.
yeah, there's no fill,
Yeah,
and it's not conditional.
they're out of floodplain when you look at ground elevations, and so applying for one through FEMA too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done one, but I'm pretty familiar with, you know, litter map change based off of lowest adjacent grade being at or above base flood elevation for a structure. I don't know if there's a non-structure way to get a whole property removed, and I know that you can do it based off of fill, that's a separate form. And then I know there's conditional, that you can get like plans approved.
So you can do it for, instead of just doing it for structure, like the whole property, the property, which is probably the smarter way to do it. That way, if there's any future development on a part of the property, it's not just that one structure that's removed. There's enough other parts of the property where they could develop those that I can worry about.
Yeah.
The floodplain requirements. I don't know anything about community acknowledgement forms. What do you need to?
The community acknowledgement forms, the only times they would apply is if somebody wanted to place fill on the property. Because when fill's placed and you have property removed by the placement of fill, you've got to sign, the local floodplain administrator has to sign off that any federal and state permits required were received, and they're also signing off that it's in compliance with the Endangered Species Act. With the placement of fill, you aren't creating a taking of any of the endangered species listed, which basically the applicant just needs to get a letter from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services stating that there are no endangered species in the area, or there is no chance that they're gonna be doing a taking. If they are, there are likely would be some mitigation that would have to take place to offset that taking.
Okay.
But
Is
that's
there
what
a county map that references that, like on a minimum level, like you go, okay, Lake County, you gotta worry about these three, or
Not that I'm
Lake
aware,
County,
not that I'm aware of, we direct people, when they come in through our office for floodway permits, our Fish and Wildlife Division takes care of that portion of it. And they will notify any individuals, but there's no floodway within the county of Schneider. So they will notify those individuals and often direct them to the appropriate regional office for U.S. Fish and Wildlife. But they'll generate a letter. We can provide contacts. It takes a little bit of research on our end too, depending on where you're at in the state. But we can provide you a contact for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the applicant would just need to go to them and have them send them a letter that there are any endangered species in the area. But that's the only time you come across that. The only thing different about that community acknowledgement form is it's part of the MT1 form, and typically you're gonna be filing an MTEZ, but if you're using fill, you're gonna have to use the MT1 or MT2 form.
Was it MT what?
MT1,
Uh-huh,
MT-1
okay.
is the form number. If you go to FEMA's website, you can do a search and it'll pop up. Or just go search for letters of map change, and it'll give you all the applications, it'll take you a page that has all the applications on it.
Okay.
So, how is a building permit for development in the floodplain issued? I know you guys have been working on a new permit process, I'm walking through that.
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Or do you?
Jenny made new form, so we have a form.
Yeah.
Form here that we were kicking around.
And I've got, actually, need to give you I updated a little bit based off of our meeting yesterday. So this is actually what I sent you.
Okay.
But I think some of this goes, like whether this form gets used or how we move forward, like some of it has to do with that substantial improvement.
It's basically the same. I got it from 3 pages to 2.
Oh,
So, I mean, I think we've been redoing the permit, and Jenny and Tim have worked on that, so there's a question, just, what, yes or no, but more than that has to be figured out. Most of our permits are gonna be a substantial improvement modification determination. So it's what's in this form has you, basically it asks, are you in the floodplain? It says, the answer is yes, but that was worth asking. Because I think if somebody already has a low, technically that would be no. But, and then, I didn't know if, I saw one of the other forms had it be a designated floodway. But then, you have a letter of map change. And then E is basically getting at the substantial modification. Is this permit for reconstruction, rehabilitation, or improvement of an existing structure, or in addition to an existing building, and ask the questions on the value and the project cost. And then it just gives all the information. So this is a permit application that they have to fill out, and then we need some internal processes on what we need to look for, based off of yes or no. So we had some questions for you about that, but
just real quick, look this.
And we're not looking to give the residents of the town of Schneider, everybody shouldn't have to be, floodplain certified to be able to build a deck of their house, right? Or to understand all this paperwork. So we're trying to minimize that portion of it. And take care of that internally as much as possible. But
My question for you guys in seeing other applications, is it common to have that floodplain application involved in with just applications in general? Or would that be something that we use internally to go through? I mean, do residents get asked all these complicated questions when they're filling out a permit application?
Most of the time, with most of our communities, the floodplain information is an internal review only.
Okay.
And they're the local communities, the ones that go in and make the determination if it's in the floodplain or not, what the map panel numbers are, is it in the fringe or the floodway, which you guys are really fortunate, you only have fringe areas, you don't have to worry about floodways, which is another whole convoluted set of rules because of the state requirements.
So would we be in compliance with just giving that general application and then using the floodplain structure that you made internally? Would we be in compliance doing that?
Long as it was attached to each permit, yes.
Perfect. I would rather do that if you guys do not mind.
So yeah, we talked about that at the meeting yesterday, if we can keep as much internal as possible. I like having a more complicated external form or something that explains what you're going to run into if you're not doing a substantial modification, or if you are doing a substantial modification, so people, can plan appropriately.
Because it's gonna add, in a lot of cases, it's gonna add a significant amount of cost.
Right. And so for new construction, maybe we would require this, like you're gonna have to, or if maybe we do our internal thing and say that's a non-substantial modification, great, we don't have to do anything else.
Right.
But then if we come back to determine it's a substantial modification, then I think we're asking for all the things on the second page that we're gonna need to comply.
Yeah.
So. I don't know if I printed out a copy, so the substantial modification determinations, we also, so we put together a form, so here's an example one, that we created, well, I just give you a whole stack of these for all the permits that we found that were deficient, that were in the review. I don't know if that's, meets what you're looking for documenting that the determination has been made. So I think, that could be an example of maybe just our internal form. We do that, and if the answer is non-substantial, we can put that in the file.
Yeah. For this, where is the cost of project? Is that?
Oh, we pulled it from the permit.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be in the file with the permit of what they stated is the cost.
Okay, I think, and do you guys require like an itemized list of what added up to make it cost that much, like labor and everything, or is that just, we're saying here's how much it costs?
We would just have a lump sum price.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you tell how you tell the businesses they have to give you an itemized list. I'm not sure how that works. I mean, we handle hundreds of building permits north of here. We don't leave that from anybody. It is here's the job, here's the scope, here's maybe the trades broke out, but what the trades are doing by scope, and here's our price. Yeah. And
I do realize that if somebody's doing their own work, you have to take into account the value of their own labor.
Yeah.
Or if they're receiving donated materials. But there was also a FEMA document that gave guidance that said you can put less scrutiny into your estimates if you're farther away from the 50%. So a lot of these, it's like, 6%.
Yeah,
So
where the
okay.
itemized, where you're really gonna wanna get an itemized list is when they're right at that 50%, whether they're just below it or just over it.
Right. So, yeah.
Because, especially when they're just below the 50%, say at 45 to 50%, you're really gonna wanna get an itemized estimate, so somebody within the town can take a look at it, and does it seem reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
If FEMA or DNR come up and pull this permit file, does this look reasonable, that everything's included? That's where the itemized list comes in.
Right.
When you say itemized, you're talking about material.
Material and labor. It doesn't have to be down to the 2x4, it can be by scope, like Tim was saying, like we're gonna have drywall. So many square feet of drywall in the structure, and this is what it's gonna cost, materials and labor.
Oh, I see, all right.
So
It doesn't have to be like, so many boxes of nails and.
No, it don't have to
I'll
be.
back up to that. I mean, for 25 years, I was a general contractor. I traveled over 17 states here up to the East Coast and work. When we first started in the business, we did estimates, we did bills like that, that were itemized. They turned into shopping lists for people. We quit doing that. We
Yeah,
gave you,
exactly.
we're gonna put a room addition on your house, it's this big, it's gonna have these amenities, and it's in this much, and that's it. Then go on to the breakdown, and I'd say, I literally would say, when you go to a restaurant, you're buying a $12 cheeseburger, does it matter to you how much that is burger, how much that's lettuce? Doesn't matter, you either want me to build you this room, or you don't.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
so
why,
you're gonna get pushed
that's
back.
the way I did mine when I was a custom home builder. I gave you an itemized scope of work that
Yeah.
told you the number and types of windows, and maybe it was based off of your building plans or whatever. But when they wanted me to break it out by line, and how much is this, how much is that, no, you ain't getting that from me, because you're gonna go down here and talk to Joe, and you're gonna have him build your house, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, there's one something that you can do, right? I mean, like in our area, like to do a asphalt roof, right? I mean, an asphalt roof in our area, a one-layer tear off on a walkable roof is gonna run you somewhere between $400 and $500 a square, right? So if it comes in at $100, that's not right, right?
Yeah.
If it comes in at $1,200 and somebody wasn't willing to pay that, okay, you're paying twice what that
Yeah,
roof is worth,
that's
but
pretty,
that's
I
on
did a
you.
lot of them back in the day for $100 a square foot.
Yeah, right, but yeah.
But I know what materials have done since I got
Really,
out of
yeah.
business too.
Yeah.
And labor.
Yeah. So one of these is closer to the 50% threshold, it's 2025.01, it's at 44, but it does, and I didn't put it on that form, in the permit file, we already have like a broken out.
Hazen,
And that, but let me tell you, that contractor is unique in the
Yeah.
fact that they do a ton of insurance work, and so
Right.
they use that insurance format for all their estimates. That's why theirs is broke out that way.
Yes.
And not everybody's that way, not even close to
Your
that.
restoration contractors will, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an insurance program that they all use that the insurance companies accept.
Yes.
Which, good, I have a question with that permit is, does a roof, like, is that even in consideration?
Not if it's done independently. And by what I mean to that, that's, all they're doing is re-roofing their house. It's not even considered, you don't even have to do a substantial improvement on it, most likely, unless the value of the home is extremely low.
So that's kind of this job here, right? It's a commercial building, it's a two-story building, and it had some rot in the roof structure. So they reframed the second-story roof and then re-roofed it. That's what this job is. So how does that really tie into the substantial cover? It had nothing to do with
That
the
one would be considered, you would need to do the substantial improvement calculations on that one that's determined. Because you're getting into the structural work.
Okay.
It includes more than just re-roofing. If you're just stripping off the shingles and putting new shingles on, that's considered maintenance.
Okay.
Unless it's done, they're doing a whole house remodel, and while they're in the process, they're putting a new roof on. Then the cost of that roof goes in with the rest of the project to make that substantial improvement.
So just because we're gonna run into this, or we could run into this, right? We're gonna do a whole house renovation, and the roof is 15 grand of that. And I'm 9 grand away from being over my 50%, so I don't do the roof now. I do the rest of my house. When that's all done, that permit's closed out, I go and pull another permit to do my roof.
Yes,
That's okay?
that's okay.
Alright.
As
Perfect.
long as it's separated by time and it's a separate permit, but what you gotta be careful of is homeowner A comes in for a re-roof permit in, let's say May, we have nice weather out. And just in July, they close the roof permit out and they come back in and get another permit for a new mechanical system. They close that one out. They're back-to-back permits.
Yeah.
It really should all be on one permit when you get into where it's back-to-back, where they aren't separated by 6 months, 8 months. Don't have a reasonable separation of time.
That was gonna be my question is, what is the time? That would constitute.
I believe the FEMA guidance, the substantial improvement, substantial damage test guide, says a reasonable amount of time. So you aren't pulling permits, you close one and open another a week later. You,
Sure.
30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on what the nature of the work is, just where they're in a string of permits over a year, year and a half, where they completely reconstructed their home to avoid that 50% rule.
So how do we look at this, I mean, just not to beat up on something, but how do we look at it? So you're a general contractor, and you bring in your electrician, your plumber, your HVAC guy, your roofer, right, you're doing all that work. You're a homeowner, and you got a little bit of money, you wanna fix your house up, so I hire the heating guy over there, and he comes into town, he pulls a permit, to change furnace in the house. And I hire the plumber, he comes and pulls a permit to change my water heater, put a new bathtub, new toilet in my house. Those are different trades doing different work that are pulling their own separate permits. They may be at the same time.
Right, and they should be, the numbers should be added together when they're done concurrently.
But they're different companies doing different work.
Right.
So you're just attached. What are we pulling them together on? There is no single permit for the
There's
house.
no single permit for the house, but they should be considered, if you're doing the substantial improvement determination, you need to take all permits
Okay.
into consideration. A lot of that stuff, like I say, that gets into kind of a gray area. That's where that substantial improvement, substantial desk guide gives.
We thought it was
really
really
good
good,
guidance.
you make it black and white.
Really good guidance on it, and that time separation, it doesn't specify a specific amount of time, but when all this work is being done concurrently, it needs to be considered as one project, and what the total cost of all those different trades are needs to be considered when determining whether or not it's a substantial improvement.
Even though each one has a separate permit.
So that would be up to you to say, hey, we already have the plumber in, we're gonna add this, and you get to determine that.
Yes. And we have to maybe tell someone if it's the beginning of a project like that, like,
Yeah.
hey, there's gonna be a limit to how many permits you can pull that are all part of the same project. Or limit to, so,
But how would you back into something like that, right? I mean, you get to the one project and you go, okay, you can't do that project because now it's gonna put you over your substantial limit. And if you do that project, then you're gonna have to go back and do foundation work to your house to have a new roof.
More or less.
They're gonna need some bulletproof glass.
so I think we tell people it's not our rule,
Yeah.
but then I think we tell people at the beginning, at the permit, the earlier we can let people know, like when they're pulling the first permit, if we can have a little one page.
It might be a half-page cover sheet that's on our permit.
Right,
That says you need to be aware of substantial,
yeah,
That's not a bad idea.
right.
you know, as a homeowner, you need to be
And
aware.
it's in a lot of zoning ordinances and stuff too, that if
Yeah.
you substantially improve the structure, now you gotta bring it into compliance with the setback rules or the use. You may have to change the use on the property if you
So in other words, we have,
substantial improvement.
we have existing non-conformities.
Right,
So, you're doing so much work in this house, but that house was there, and then maybe the road got put in. And so your house is
Right,
not conforming.
right.
But we ain't making you move it. It
But
gets to stay.
a lot of zoning ordinances, if the structure is substantially improved, required to come into
Yeah.
conformance with the legally non-conforming goes out the window.
I found the desk guide yesterday, so we'll look at that, kind of read through it. I found a different, there was an advice for determining a different guide that I found that had been super helpful. It was, what's it called? Answers to questions about substantially improved / substantially damaged buildings. Unit 213, August 2018.
In a few weeks, we'll be hosting a workshop on Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
That's entirely about substantial improvement, substantial damage.
Yeah.
I can, if you guys are interested in coming to that, I can see you guys the link to sign up
Sure.
next week, because it'll be like 2 hours of all in depth, and any more questions that come up, you guys will be able to ask there. Now, getting back into this, on your application, yes, it has a question concerning flood zone. Are you going to require run fair reports for a site? Like say somebody comes in with a substantial improvement, and so they're gonna have to elevate their house. Are you planning on running a fair report to determine base flood elevation and then the flood protection grade that you need to elevate to?
I suppose we're gonna have to, right? I mean, we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the default answer there would be yes, because we
Yeah.
backed into a corner. We'd be happy to.
And then, are you requiring FEMA elevation certificates?
I don't think we have, but
Yeah.
I mean, we will,
we will.
it's part of our ordinance for new construction or substantial improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to have a licensed surveyor come out.
Yeah, and there's a note at the bottom of this form that says, upon completion of construction, FEMA elevation certificate form, any 131 must be submitted to the building department. And then also a note letting them know that we require, upon placement of the lowest floor, elevation must be certified by a registered land surveyor before proceeding.
That's only something that's a substantial improvement or new construction.
Yeah.
Right, just those two.
Yeah.
Non-substantial, they don't need.
Okay.
Yeah.
And be clear, like non-substantial is gonna be a swimming pool, replacing the
Swimming pool,
stairs on the
detached,
house,
so
the
you
deck.
got
Yeah,
swimming pools, detached structures, so you wouldn't have to do the non-substantial or the substantial deck or substantial improvement determination. It's a standalone thing. It's not a structure. It's not wall and roof, so.
So, okay, so what about a detached accessory structure, a garage, a shop, something along those lines, where does that fall in?
That falls under accessory structures as long as it's less than 400 square feet.
Okay, so what happens if it's under 400 square feet, what happens if it's over 400 square feet?
Basically, you have to, it's over 400 square feet, you have to elevate or dry flood proof to flood protection grade.
Okay,
If it's under 400 square feet, you won't need to elevate it. But
so somebody gets a pre-made deodor shed that's, 200 square feet, 190, 16 by 12, 192 square feet, puts it in their backyard, we don't have to worry about that.
you'll need a permit for it, and you'll want to make sure it has like flood openings for water to pass through, anchoring. Make sure
It
it's
has to be
anchored
anchored so it doesn't float or
Okay.
move during a flooding event.
Is there a place where we can find, like the IRC's not gonna cover flood anchoring, so what does FEMA or the DNR, which you are
Ground owners,
ground augers okay, but is there a depth or a diameter on that auger, or, we're gonna wind up with dog tires?
the builders can typically let you know what
Okay.
you need on it for any wind loads or anything like that. It'll have to have the flood openings in it, and anything below that flood protection grade has to be constructed with flood resistant materials, which are
Pressure treated lumber?
common 2x4s, treated lumber, your OSB and stuff does not meet that, but they could use treated plywood on it. Marine grade is preferred,
Okay,
but plywood is painted on all sides, so the edges and both sides qualifies, and it doesn't even have to be treated if it's painted on all sides where it's sealed.
okay. And that has to happen up to base flood level?
Flood protection grade.
Protection.
Place,
Two
plus
feet above
2
it.
feet.
Okay, okay.
and that was over 400 square feet we're talking about.
No, that's under 400 square feet, so if you just want a Yoder shed, you ain't going to buy one. Unless we go talk to Yoder and they go, look, you need to make special sheds for floodplain people.
Most of their sheds, all you need to do is cut the flood openings in, and they would qualify.
But the material is not treated.
A lot of it doesn't have to be, and that's technical bulletin, go back to FEMA's technical bulletin too,
Okay.
and it will tell you what materials are allowable. A standard kiln dried stud SPF is
Is
allowable.
allowable? Oh, okay, I think so, it wasn't allowable.
It is allowable, I mean, if it's gonna be in a location that's repeatedly wet, would I use it? No.
Okay.
But it is allowed by the technical bulletin.
Okay.
We don't flood that frequently, if we're planning for the 100-year, or the 1% chance flood. It's-
So you're probably
Right.
fine, because you're not,
Right,
your shed's not gonna be wet
right.
twice a year.
So you said under 400 square feet, counted as an accessory building per our ordinance and FEMA's. Is it anchoring flood openings, but then you saying built from flood-proof materials, or what's the technical way of describing it?
Flood damage resistant materials,
Okay,
and that's what you'll find in technical bulletin too.
And that's under 400 square feet. So when we get over 400 square feet,
They're treated as a non-residential structure, they can't have any living space in them, and then they've gotta be elevated to that flood protection grade, can't have any utilities below flood protection grade. All the other requirements that your new homes or anything else would require is gonna be basically the same for non-residential.
Elevated, it's gonna be elevated to non.
With non-residential structures, you have the option of dry floodproofing.
Versus does, I mean, you don't have to elevate, it's elevated.
You don't have to elevate, they can do dry floodproof, but they've gotta have a dry floodproofing certificate that's
Yeah.
signed by an architect or engineer, and then a surveyor's gonna get involved to give you an elevation of what the height is that it's dry floodproof to. But basically, they're signing off saying that it's designed and constructed to where water won't enter. That, there's a technical bulletin on that as well.
Oh, wait. So dry flood proofing is keeping the water out?
Keeps the water out and also resists any hydrostatic or hydrodynamic forces, so.
Yeah.
The water comes up and you got this log that comes floating downstream, it's gonna resist that log butting into the side of that structure without collapsing.
Well, just the static forces of the water is,
Or the static force of the water is gonna hold that.
I mean, I can see, okay, you could go and you could pour a 4-foot wall around this thing and build on top of that, right? I mean, you could take a thing down, but you have a garage door. How do you can't flood through a garage door on an accessory
Stop
structure?
logs,
What's it?
stop logs,
Stop logs.
they make a floodproofing stop log that basically sits in a bracket on the exterior of the building for doors and windows to where you can block them off in anticipation of a flooding event.
So it's something that would have to take positive action, it's not passive.
Right.
Okay.
They do make passive systems as well, and depending on how your ordinance is set up. Depending on how your ordinance is set up, and a lot of communities around the state, passive systems are not allowed without variance.
passive systems are not allowed. The passive means. it
There's
doesn't
a
require
line in a
intervention.
lot of local floodplain ordinances said that dry floodproofing measures must be operable without human intervention or an outside source of.
I thought that was the definition of passive.
Kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. Is
So
passive
the
and
non-passive ones wouldn't be, non-passive, you have to be home and take action to make it work. The passive ones
Right.
would work automatically, so.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right.
so there's a passive ones are not allowed. It's passive
Passive
ones
ones
are
are
allowed.
allowed.
The non-passive.
Non-passive ones aren't allowed in a lot of communities.
Yeah.
I would have to look at your ordinance, I'm guessing that language is not in your ordinance.
No, it's not
Maybe
there.
we chose not to.
Yeah.
Because specifically of the one site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the elevator, maybe their solution would be like a aqua dam or something like that. But their suggestion grade is fine. So, so if I'm understanding, any garage over 400 square feet has to be elevated or has to be built strong enough to, survive, keep the water out and inundations up to base flood or flood protection grade.
Flood protection grade.
So that's a pretty sturdy building. Like that rules out, it sounds like that rules out pole barns or,
Yes, it'd be very expensive to dry floodproof a pole barn.
and I mean,
You're doing a concrete foundation at that point.
right, I mean, you're ready, basically doing.
That's something that's gonna withstand,
Yeah.
we're gonna engineer to think that a log's not gonna go through it. I mean,
Right.
When I was at Carroll County, as floodplain administrator, I had a pole barn person wanted to put in a pole building, and he was only just barely below flooding elevation. And was telling me the floor slab, to resist the effects of buoyancy on the floor slab in that building, if he built it at existing grade, he would have to make that floor slab like 16 or 18 inches thick to protect it to the flood, base flood elevation plus the 2 feet. So they chose to bring fill in and elevate the site where the pole barn went
Yeah.
above base flood elevation.
Oh,
Where
I
that portion of the site could be
understand.
removed, and then the regulations didn't apply.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying that you couldn't bring the fill in, so otherwise you're using concrete as your fill. That's pricey.
Yeah. No, you can bring fill in, and that's one of the things in a lot of sites, if you have an area removed, it's up to you as local community whether you wanna have the property owner do it prior to pulling the building permit, but we always suggest using two separate permits, one permit for the fill, and then the second permit for the structure itself.
If you fill, don't you, I mean, it's not a one-to-one, if you fill somewhere, don't you have to remove from somewhere else?
It was in our old ordinance, we took it out.
We took it out of the model ordinance, and one of the reasons we did is because communities weren't equipped to enforce that. And a lot of communities will give variances to it. So if you're given a variance, it's a higher standard, it's not required by FEMA. So it come out, because a lot of communities, it's actually in their stormwater regulations. And that's a required compensatory storage for anything in the 100-year floodplain.
Right, but you can get a fill permit, you can fill and then bring the grade up out of the.
Yes. Once you get that ground around it at or above base flood elevation, there's requirements in your ordinance for constructing on the fill about when that ground can slope off.
Yep.
The other things you gotta be careful of is you gotta be pushing water off on the neighboring property owners, things like that, because you don't wanna go permit a bunch of fill and then cause a bunch of other problems to all the neighbors. But once you have that up to or above the base flood elevation, you can have that area of the parcel removed, then the regulations no longer apply. But it's up to the local community, as long as you have documentation that it was at that elevation before you permitted the structure, you can permit it. The mandatory purchase requirement is still going to apply to the structure
Mandatory purchase requirement?
for flood insurance. Because
Okay.
it's mapped in on the firm.
Right, until they're low.
They would have to file a low RF,
Okay,
because they place fill in there. That's
Yeah.
when you're gonna have to sign off on that community acknowledgement form. Some communities require that before they permit the structure. If you don't require it, as long as they make that lowest floor at or above the flood protection grade and follow all the other requirements in the ordinance for a structure on fill, you're good to go. It just does not remove that mandatory purchase requirement for the flood insurance unless the property owner follows through with that low RF. And if they're doing low RF, I mean, it's gonna cost them a minimum of $1,000. I think the application fee is $800.
So you're saying that we can, if we have an elevation certificate that lowest adjacent grade is at or above base flood elevation, they don't have to do the LOMA, but if we have that documented?
You have to have it documented in a file.
Yeah.
You don't have to require them to do the LOMA.
Okay. I thought
It
we
is
did.
their advantage to do the LOMA because that's going to increase their resale values to
Yeah.
make their property more marketable if they should ever decide to sell it. And it's gonna remove that mandatory purchase requirement.
Right. Yep. And could we permit a new construction based off of their, agreeing, the plans showing that they're going to make the lowest adjacent grade at the base flood? Because you're saying you do it as two permits, a fill permit, they bring in with the fill, and then we verify, and then we permit the structure.
That's,
There's more.
we have several communities doing it that way.
Okay.
That way they don't bring in the fill and they gotta take in the fill report showing that the fill's been compacted, meets the compaction requirements. And an elevation certificate that shows it meets the elevation requirements.
We're gonna want a structure or geoengineer.
Before-
Pentameters.
Before they will issue the structure permit. They can do that as a protection to their own liability and to that property owner, so they don't get this bill put in, the structure on top, and then they don't have all the documentation that they need to show that it's compliant with the local ordinance. And then it's hard to show after the fact.
Right, but then you're requiring that they have to excavate inside of the fill, because they're gonna fill, and then they're gonna have to excavate for their footers, so
Yes.
it's more work overall and more cost. But we could
A little
permit
bit.
them, we could permit them together,
Yes.
that you excavate and, you know, if we have plans that show everything is gonna meet, and, but it sounds like the danger is they don't have the compaction reports or the fill reports, and, and then they've already committed and paid for the whole structure. So, okay. Because I think I mean, most houses here have crawl spaces, and you can get a lot of your fill from the excavation for your footers in your crawl space. You're still probably bringing in some fill, but, it'd be nice to make it cost less if anyone decides to build a house.
The best way really is to just do an above grade crawl space. If you're doing a crawl space, if they want to do a crawl space, do it above grade. Because the floor of that crawl space cannot be separated on all four sides. Otherwise it becomes a basement for flood insurance purposes. And if the floor of that crawl space is below the base flood elevation, it turns into a violation of your local ordinance. Floor of the crawl space needs to be at or above existing grade, finished grade on at least one side of the building. It can't be separated on all four sides.
Okay.
It ends up being a violation if it's below the base flood elevation.
So where is a violation of what part of the ordinance?
Your floodplain ordinance,
Yeah, I mean, what part in it?
the, structures,
Okay.
it's in the, structure requirements.
Okay.
Because that lowest floor is the lowest floor. Next floor, basement, whatever it is, the lowest floor has to be at or above.
Lowest.
The crawl space floor would be considered your lowest floor.
Your crawl space floor is gonna be considered your lowest floor, and you can't
Was
be
it,
separated
was
on
it
all four
pour or
sides.
not?
Huh?
Even if you don't pour a floor in the crawl?
Yes. Even if it's dirt,
Okay.
that is the lowest floor of the structure. And your ordinance says the lowest floor has to be at or above the flood protection grade.
I just never thought of the crawl space as a floor.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Like for instance, my house,
For-
is crawl space is about that deep.
For flood insurance program, that's the lowest floor.
Okay.
Alright.
So you have questions, sorry.
You're good. It's all good. Are you doing building inspections for permits?
Yes.
How many and when?
Depends on what the, you know, got a new house, we would probably do 14, 15 on a new house. On a deck, we're doing 3. On a roof, we're doing 1.
Yeah. So all mechanical equipment and utilities, for any substantial improvement or new construction are gonna have to be elevated to flood protection grade.
And flood protection grade is 2 feet above.
2 feet above
base
base flood
flood.
elevation. And anything below VFE, like in your crawl space, is gonna need flood openings. You're gonna need to, you're gonna wanna make sure those are on plans and get
new construction.
New
construction,
Substantial amount.
room addition,
Yeah,
or, I guess not a room addition, I mean, it would be a house that had a major overhaul, and then we're adding flood foundation or floodways into the foundation, into the block of the crawl space, we're adding flow throughs and.
how many permits have you issued since January?
2.
And how many variances?
No.
Are your floodplain permit files, elevations, and elevation certificates, maintained in a permanent file that you're never getting rid of?
Yes.
Yes. Have you had any flooding in the past year?
No.
Are you familiar with your post-flood responsibilities?
No.
Okay. So, in the event that you guys do get the 100-year flood and your whole town is a couple feet underwater, you're gonna wanna be out doing basically substantial damage determinations and looking at houses and seeing what's the damage going on, what are we gonna need to fix this. One of the really helpful documents for this is the depth damage field estimate, which we have here. That's basically gonna have, what shows you the size of the house and the depth of water and what Doug has found that thing very helpful when he's been doing them, when he was a floodplain administrator. And we've also got this whole book on post-flood items that in the event you get that will have really everything you need to know about your post-flood responsibilities and getting things recorded and back.
These are all things so that FEMA can help take care of the residents here like they did in North Carolina and West Virginia, right?
And that's a lot of it there. If you can show you're compliant.
Yeah, the disaster declarations in Indiana for flooding are few and far between because of the rules that go around them. And getting federally declared, we did get a disaster declared for, I think it got extended to 25 counties in Indiana. Part of that was high winds and stuff from, I believe it was March 29th through like April 7th.
How many
A lot of it was flooding along the Ohio River,
on the off chance.
which didn't even meet the 100-year flood level.
We're gonna go to lunch, when we do that.
Alright.
But there was enough damages there and stuff, and the last month, our boss and myself have been going to all kinds of FEMA meetings. After the first week or two, we'll join you virtually. We started going to meetings rather than running all over the state to do these meetings, because a lot of their later meetings we felt were pointless. They didn't have any flood damages and stuff, but that's what our primary concern is with the National Flood Insurance Program. It was high wind damage and stuff, but a lot of these communities that they were meeting with didn't have any flooding damage or wind damage in their special flood hazard areas, so we're kind of like, what's the point of the meeting? If they didn't have any damages in their flood hazard areas. Right.
Are you familiar with the community rating system at all? CRS. It's basically you do some extra work, some select actions, and it's a program where you can basically get a lower flood insurance premiums for
Class 8.
Class 8.
Well, yeah, class 9. No, class 9. In class 9, and you're about halfway to class 8, which is, class 9 is a 5% discount.
So a lot of the things you have to do are like putting brochures in the library, kind of like outreach that stuff,
market flood insurance, and then I think and there's a different, am I exactly sure?
There's NFIP flood insurance and there's private insurance.
Is it just NFIP?
This is only on the CRS program only affects the NFIP insurance. It will reduce that premium by 5%.
So if you are insured, I think this is more information on this, I'll take that.
Sure.
You guys will want to probably wait until we can get all of the outstanding issues from this CAB resolved and closed, because part of the requirements to join are you have to have a CAB in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And then you can write a letter to FEMA Region 5, saying you're interested in joining, and you have to show proof that you've done enough of the activities to hit like the minimum credit limit. Essentially, I don't know all that off the top of my head.
With what the state requirements, some of the higher standards the state has, like the 2-foot freeboard and a couple other things that are in there that are state requirements or higher standards, you're guaranteed to get a class 9. It's stuff you're doing already, so it's really not a lot of extra work. You can get more points, and like I said earlier, you're halfway to a class 8 just because of the state higher standards.
Okay.
Adding the brochures on flood insurance and stuff like that will pick up more points. Maybe it'd be enough to get you to the class 8 with a 10% discount, but it's one you probably want to look at your policy counts and stuff and see, all right, how much is this truly going to save us?
Right.
And we can get some of that information for you. It may take us a little bit because the information that we see in the database is aggregated and it's not 100% current. They only update it like monthly or quarterly.
Okay.
In the database, but there's another separate database just for the insurance side that's up to date all the time. Problem with that is previously, up until the end of this month, you could submit an information sharing agreement application and get access to that information, but they're changing that whole process. I haven't dug into it enough. I've got the information, haven't dug into it. What they're saying now is this is something you send up to the governor. In appendixes A and B, you designate which departments at the state level and which local communities also have access to it. Goes up to the governor's office and gets signed by the governor, and it gives everybody in the appendices ability to retrieve or to see that information as well.
Okay.
And I don't know if the governor will even sign off on it, but
Yeah.
we're gonna look at it and see what we need to do and get it sent up the chain.
So every year in January, we send out a letter to every community in the state basically asking for any updates on your contact information. Obviously, we have all of your current contact information because we're in contact very regularly. But in the future, if we're not and something in your staffing changes, you just let us know who your contacts will be. That's how we get into contact by any of our workshops. We send out, like, if we get a CDR from the state building about your town, we'll send that over in case they haven't come to our local permit or anything yet. And then anything with our CACs and CABs or audits will come through there. So just keep it updated on your contact information.
Okay.
All right, now some closing things on this. ICC is the increased cost of compliance coverage. This is a little brochure on it. It's basically if a structure is substantially damaged or repetitive loss, or it's had multiple non-substantial damages, they can qualify for an extra $30,000 grant, so it's not something you have to pay back, to either flood-proof, relocate, elevate, or demolish their structure. So that's just something I want you guys to be aware of, that in the event this happens, if you guys do get a significant flood here, that's something that's available to people who are looking to repair their structure.
Is it any any substantial damage? Or the repetitive loss?
Just flood damage only.
Yeah, flood, but it says one substantial damage.
Substantial damage or repetitive loss, as long as repetitive loss is in your ordinance.
Yeah, which we put it in. I think, so this was benefit?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
do you have like a town hazard mitigation plan?
Yeah.
That's what I'm aware of. I mean, what kind of hazard?
Multi-hazard.
Yeah, like
Okay.
flood, tornado, like Michigan gets a hurricane that gets down here.
Do you know, do you, Jenny? Or
I'm sorry, what?
do we have a town hazard mitigation plan? This would be, not an ordinance, this would be something.
Yeah,
More
I
than-
know I've taken some classes.
More than
Was it the
likely-
mayor of Kokomo taught a class because they had like 2 tornadoes in a year? About devising those plans because they're like instantaneous as soon as something happens. Like who's the contact? Where's like a location point? Who's gonna be doing all of the things when FEMA comes? They're gonna wanna know everything on what's going on. And the answer is no, we don't have that plan.
You may be written into the county's plan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of communities are written into the county plan, but you should be involved when they develop or update that plan. So you may want to get in touch with the county EMA director and find out where it's at and what the status of it is. They've got to be updated now every 5 years.
That program does exist, we did that with the county, we did one not long ago.
Okay.
We actually do like a scenario of, down there at the corner of Belshaw and Joe Martin where Stone Hill's going in, there's 2 huge 30-inch gas mains that just goes in, go through there with all the excavation going on. So we did one on, what's the emergency response, should one of those things get hit? What do we do? And it was our fire department, our police department, our EMS.
One of the big ones in White County and Carroll County when they updated their plans when I was working locally was they both got some railways going through the county and that carry hazardous cargo. Sometimes what happens if we have railways similar to what we've seen in Ohio a couple of years ago.
Yep.
They had the train derailment with all kinds of nasty chemicals and stuff that took forever to clean up. And
There's a bit of thought goes into those things, because even just on the EMS side, like if you get injuries, right, where are you gonna get ambulances from, where are you gonna get helicopters from, where are you gonna take people?
Mm-hmm.
St. Anthony's can maybe receive 3 or 4 people, right? You're gonna have in Munster, you're gonna be over Olympia Field, you're gonna be over Melbourne Park, you're gonna take, you gotta figure out kind of where are those places, where people go, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's a
Right,
huge
not
thought
even everybody at the
process.
hospital. The last thing like St. Anthony's or something wants to see is 8 ambulances headed there where they can't handle that. So.
Oh, we do have something with the, Golden Wellhead Protection, plan, which deals with like railway asbestos. And we do have copies of that.
Isn't this building actually like county shelter in place building?
Yeah.
This is the elevation to everything, just like the place in Schneider, that's not in the floodplain, is this?
Yeah,
building?
it is, and it is, this is like an emergency building. Yeah, we have cots and blankets and,
Yeah, this is where you would come if you were down there in Schneider, and something happens, you come here.
and now the generator works on its own, so the lights will come on.
So we host quarterly workshops, I was thinking about that, substantial improvements, especially in the couple weeks. We host those once a quarter, and then we also have a yearly, NFIP 101, which we're doing, we did last year, doing this year, which is basically a whole comprehensive crash course in how to be a floodplain administrator, essentially. Okay.
Oh, it's like a single day?
Yeah, so if you come down to, the government center, it'll just be one day long.
Indianapolis.
Mhm.
It's safe in Indianapolis, I see the views.
It's nowhere safe.
Safe here? I might think I live here.
It's not very safe here.
Very safe right here.
Alright, so this is one day, and
Mhm.
you guys have like, it's like a newsletter or something you guys put out, or like,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
have
to
a
stay on
quarterly-
top of this kind of information?
We have a quarterly newsletter we send out water lines. I guess I figured when we got you entered into the database as the FAA, you got put on that list. But if you haven't been getting those.
You should then.
Yeah. We gotta make sure you're on the list of that, but you should be receiving them. It's quarterly, so you might not have gotten them yet. I don't know last time I sent it out. I guess that was not long ago.
Wasn't that long ago. And I believe it went out in August,
Okay.
early August.
It's a
Water lines?
water lines. Well, Division Water has like 5 different water lines for all different, like there's one for engineers, one for homeowners, one for people on like properties, and one for like the industries. I don't know if you automatically get signed up for all of those, or just
Just the quarterly.
okay, just the
But we do put an article in there to sign up for the others if they're interested.
we'll talk about an ASP and ASAP, or we could just kind of dig into some of the further questions.
I would just go ahead and do we can mention them. And ASP or Indiana Association of Floodplain Stormwater Managers is a organization to get involved with. Allows you to network with nearby officials that do floodplain stuff as well.
There's a club.
Yeah.
What was that called?
Indiana Association for Floodplain and Stormwater Managers.
Okay.
And there's also Association of State Floodplain Managers, which is on the national level. The NASM conference was just 2 weeks ago down in French Lick.
That's where all the conferences are this year, all of them.
Easy.
I was just at one.
40 minutes.
Even ARC.
I know, we were driving through cow pastures.
I was just at one last month. I got another one next month down there. I think AWWA has theirs there in December.
I'm from down there, so it's getting anywhere down there is, you have a highway until you're 30 minutes away.
That's what I mean, you
Yeah.
got 45 minutes to that place, then you're in a cow pile.
I was there just for the first time this summer, and it was like, yeah, same experience.
Association of State Floodplain Managers, their national conference next May will be up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And that's a huge conference, but again, a good opportunity to network, and the education that's available at either one of those is very good. Normally a good selection. ASFPM is a lot better because they only end up, last year it was less than 50% of the submitted abstracts got chosen for presentations.
Wow.
And they've added time slots, made the conference actually bigger where there's availability of more presentations there over the last 2 years. So that is a really good conference. Yes, you can find information on Association of State Floodplain Managers at floods.org or ANAPSM at anapsm.net. And with that, I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah, I was gonna give out the goodies, but, so, here's some documentation that I brought up. So these are just INFIP, which, I know you've used for fair reports. This is for do work, which is our other one. It's basically, it's a more open GIS framework of INFIP, if you're familiar with that. And one of the main things it would be helpful for would be like violations and permits at the state level, but those are only in the floodway, and since you guys don't really have any, DWORK's probably a little less helpful than INFIP. Here is
we can't fill these out, a surveyor.
Yeah, that would have to be done.
Surveyor, engineer has to complete section C and D.
Okay,
Anybody can fill out pretty much all the other sections.
okay,
C and D require a licensed professional in Indiana. Surveyor and engineer are the only ones that are certified by law,
okay.
or authorized by statute to complete certified elevations.
Okay.
So we have, where's it, when we had the permits that were in question?
Maybe. The substantial, non-substantial application forms? Or the list of all those?
Yeah.
I've got a new, I updated this from,
I think we did last, like last time we saw you guys, is there any way we can put something, where you guys are here, we can look at this, we can look at that, we can put some of these things to bed and get them off our list before you guys run out of here?
You try.
okay.
Is this the list of permit deficiencies we need on the?
Yeah, this is, I think slightly updated. It's real similar, but I don't know if you wanna just.
Do you have an updated copy for me
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah. That one, everyone.
Thank you.
So 2022-07, I don't think we can resolve it today. That's the Cartwright steel building, so it's gonna be non-residential. But I think what I would learn today is it's gonna have to be, it's not just flood openings, it's and flood resistant materials, it's dry flood proofing is what's gonna be, or elevations, probably not elevated.
Yeah.
But if it is elevated, great, we can get an elevation certificate, but if it's not, I mean, that's gonna be dry flood proofing that is gonna cost probably a lot of money. This is probably a pretty expensive building, because their permit fee was like $3,000 or $3,600.
But it's totally steel structure though.
Oh, so it might already be strong enough.
Mhm.
Right, okay, suppose we were talking about pole barns.
No, this is my understanding.
That a red iron building?
Yeah, it's all steel framed and.
When you run into some of those is ceiling, the best place to start is probably with the elevations and find out what the actual elevation is of that lowest floor of the building.
Right.
And then if it is above the base flood elevation, maybe consider, other options to where, we're gonna make structures like this fully compliant, where if it's above base flood elevation but doesn't meet flood protection grade, without the elevations, we really don't know where to go with the structure.
I'm kind of assuming it's not elevated, like that's the easy case, if we get an elevation certificate, then we're done. We're done our file. But an elevation certificate of either lowest adjacent grade at or above base flood elevation, or lowest floor at above the flood protection grade.
The easiest thing, right, to just determine where that lowest floor is, would be probably a good starting point on that one, and see what alternatives there are to address the issue.
Okay. So we had some, maybe jump to some of the questions at the end of the document, but it's like, we're going to the person, we're going to this homeowner, you don't have to look to me, I can just ask them, I think we haven't contacted any property owners yet, because we wanna have our ducks in a row, and don't wanna unnecessarily worry them, or when we talked before, it's, I think you guys were saying it's our responsibility to get the building to be fixed. become compliant?
Ultimately, it's the community's responsibility if it's permitted incorrectly,
Yeah.
or maybe it was permitted correctly, but nobody asked for an elevation certificate or required the elevation of the building at the time it was constructed. So now the problem issue needs to be corrected. How we correct that can take a lot of different approaches on that, or there may be several options out there. But the primary concern would be the elevation of that lowest floor.
Yeah.
To determine what that is, to see what options may be available. Basically, as a community, you're the ones that are ultimately responsible for that. So you may go to the property owner and say, well, we need to know what the elevation is because it's in the floodplain and it has to meet certain elevation requirements and other requirements because it's in the floodplain and we participate in the flood insurance program. Can you get us an elevation certificate on the building, or can you get us an elevation of what the lowest floor is in that structure? If they say no, ultimately, the town's gonna have to get a surveyor out there and get permission from them to go in to make that determination.
So you recommend that we ask them to provide the elevation certificate to us?
That's where I would start,
Yeah,
and if they aren't willing to do that,
yeah. We can't make them, so we would have to
you
do it.
can't, the only way you're gonna make them is to file a claim against them in court.
Right.
And then you run the risk that, all right, they're not willing to do it, so now we're gonna have to do it.
Right.
So then you've gotta get right of entry authorization and stuff like that to send folks in to get that
There's
information.
another question I had. If they don't give us the authority to enter,
Yeah, if they say, get off my lawn,
Yeah.
what do you do?
You would file a claim or take that to,
You file like unsafe building kind of?
you would
Violations on
take
them?
it to court and explain it to the courts that, hey, this is what happened, this was permitted incorrectly, and we need to have this documentation for the for the National Flood Insurance Program. And then you get a court order that gives you right of entry.
Okay.
our floodplain ordinance has something that gives you a right to inspect existing buildings with showing credentials. So I wonder if we could use that.
Was that your ordinance when the structure was permitted?
No, so periodic inspection, once a project is completed, periodic inspections may be conducted by the floodplain administrator to ensure compliance. The floodplain administrator shall have a right upon presentation of proper credential to enter any premises within the territorial jurisdiction of the department at any reasonable hour for the purposes of inspection or enforcement action. So
In your
sounds
current
like-
ordinance,
that's the
I think that does, but if they challenge it, again,
Right.
it may end up in court. That's, I don't believe, in your old ordinance.
Right.
So that could be an issue if it went to court.
Okay.
But
So,
one word of saving grace with the National Flood Insurance Program, if you do your due diligence and you take it to court and ask the judge, hey, we wanna get in here, we wanna bring this building into compliance, and he says, no way, you guys permitted it wrong, I'm throwing it out with prejudice or whatever.
yeah,
So you're dead in the water, you can't do nothing with the building. In FEMA's eyes or the eyes of the National Flood Insurance Program, you did what you could do
okay,
to mitigate the situation, and it wasn't possible, so they're gonna basically turn a blind eye to it.
right,
At that point, you can also request section 1316, which makes flood insurance unavailable for that property. And also,
The entire property or
that structure,
that structure on the property?
yes.
And would that be for insurance, in the flood insurance program?
Yes,
What about private insurance?
they can still go get private
Okay.
okay.
if they choose.
Okay.
So is that what being in this program means? is that we can get federal flood insurance?
Yes. Anybody in the community that has property in the community can buy flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program.
Okay, so if we weren't part of this, program, we would just have to get outside flood insurance?
You would have to go to a private carrier, and what we've seen with private carriers is if you don't participate in the NFIP, they're kind of choosy, so they're making the assumption that you aren't enforcing any NFIP regulations, so the premiums, if they offer you insurance, the premium's gonna be extremely high. What we've also seen is communities that participate, a lot of times private carriers are a little bit cheaper. It's a range of how much cheaper they are. I know for me personally, I've got private insurance. And my private insurance is a third of what my actuarial rate is through the NFIP.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, it's like a third.
Yeah, mine
I
was
don't
pretty
have any
cheap.
ICC coverage with my private insurance policy, but it's a risk I'm willing to take because the way my home's constructed and everything, I'll never be substantially damaged by a flood.
Right. And the ICC coverage is just with
For only flood damage. I may get substantially damaged by an electrical fire or something else, but I won't be substantially damaged by a flood unless the flood waters.
You have separate homeowners insurance for those kind of issues, it's separate of flood
Yes.
insurance, correct?
That's correct.
But the ICC coverage is only with the FEMA flood insurance.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so what we gotta do over there, we gotta find that out. So then we got this one here, that's for a roof, that was non-substantial,
That's 2022-09.
2016-02.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2022-09.
So,
What is that one we gotta look at?
is that the, that work?
Cost of project 15. Yeah, it works either way.
Instant archives. We pulled it out. I pulled out the record card for the appropriate year. And it came from, what's the value, is it 35?
177,760.
Did I touch the wrong property record card? I don't think I did. Oh no, okay, we did this one different. It's, so the actual cash value, is you can take replacement costs and apply depreciation to it. So the replacement cost is on the next page. No.
Here's your commercial building.
I should have circled where the. Maybe it's on the first page? No, here's, replacement cost. So we took that and then multiplied it by 0.49 for 51% depreciated.
Yeah.
And then that gets the.
So yeah, you divide that by half, but you're still not even, it's still minuscule amount.
Yeah,
That's 2022-09?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's good with your,
Yes.
okay, so that just needs to be attached to that permit.
Then what other action do we
Yeah,
need to take with that? Because it's like when you guys are, what other action do we need to take?
I marked down on that was all, and the letter.
This
we
copy's
sent out
for you.
was the-
Thank you, because when he approves them, when they say that that's good,
So,
I'm gonna attach it to the permit.
you can have it.
Okay.
So that one, the value was probably, we just used the depreciation method. On the first page, there'll be a value of structure, an improvement.
Was it, Sam, where there's questions about whether it was
Yep.
attached or a detached structure?
Let me pull up the permit. What's the number? 2023-01. So there's a drawing. There's you can scroll through that, but that's the drawing that makes it immediately attached.
Yeah, that was just what a deck on the house.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So, call that one resolved.
Um, 2023-03, this is a pool. So we're not gonna be able to do it with a not substantial modification. I don't so I went and looked at it. I could see it just from the alley in the street. It's got a pump and a filter, and I couldn't see if there was a chlorinator or not, but they're attached to the pool by flexible 2-inch hose. So they're just sitting on the ground. So elevating it should be pretty inexpensive.
Elevating it should work, yeah.
Yeah, but then, so if we get it elevated, why would we need building plans and site plans? Could we adjust the elevation?
Yeah, you would just need,
Signed letter from a surveyor.
yeah, if you can get a signed stamp letter from a surveyor showing that, that the elevation requirements was at that 2 feet above the flood elevation or the flood protection grade.
So it has to be above flood protection grade.
Yes.
So there was a question that I had asked over email, was that could we have a benchmark installed and then Tim verify, or you said it has to be a certified, using signed stamp letter, because this isn't a standard elevation certificate, like I understand.
Right.
Because the house has to be an elevation certificate, that's clear in our ordinance, but our ordinance doesn't specify for things like pools.
With pools or anything else, or even your lowest floor elevation when you're doing a new structure, a lot of communities will accept a letter from a surveyor showing that they have established a benchmark or went out and took shots and established that that meets that flood protection grade.
Yeah.
So we would
So
still
if you
have to
have
hire a surveyor.
If you have documentation or hire a surveyor to go out there and get shots to where that's elevated or set a benchmark, and let's work with the property owner to get it elevated to where you can get that letter from the surveyor, you're good.
So just a building commissioner approval is not good enough. It has to be by a surveyor.
I would probably accept that if they have a level or something that they have been trained in with, to where they could transfer that as long as the benchmark was set by a licensed surveyor.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what, yeah, we have to have the benchmark set by a licensed surveyor, there's no
Yes.
other way. And then, like, the benchmark's gonna need to be right there, like, it's not gonna be across the street.
Right.
You know, and then construction gets done to elevate it, something built to hold it on, and then, yeah, this benchmark, that thing, they're right next to each other. And you
Yeah.
can sign up.
And if it's a portable pool where that equipment comes and goes,
The pool is permanent, they might pull the equipment in for the winter, I don't know.
if
Where it is.
if they pull the equipment in and out through the winter, if you could get documentation of that, that where it's connected to the power source and stuff, for a statement from them where they agree to pull it in during a flood event, I think we could probably resolve it with that as well.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, they're not hardwired, I mean, you're required to have a twist lock plug.
Yeah.
To plug that pump in, and then, yeah, from where it comes out of the skimmer and goes back into the pool discharge, it's 2.5 hoses with 2 hose clamps, so you carry the whole thing in the garage.
Yeah.
Everybody packs them away for the winter, they freeze and split if you don't, right?
Right.
So,
Oh, so that's basically the, you know, we're talking about, active flood proofing.
yes, I mean, that would be, kind of that would be.
Okay, well, that might,
And they got to be on the GFCI protected out.
Correct, yeah, your GFCI protected out, your GFCI protected breaker.
So, yeah, so, I mean.
So if we draft a letter like that, and the homeowner signs it, we can close this one out?
I'd be amicable to that.
Okay.
So they wouldn't have to, they don't have to do anything, just a letter stating that,
They just need to
Our
understand
pool
that in the event of a
season-
flood, they need to pull their pool equipment in.
okay?
Yeah.
great.
Where it's protected, where you are.
Which is a
where
good
they are-
idea to begin with.
Where they aren't releasing raw chlorine into
Yeah.
the ground, I mean, everything's protected there. And
Right.
chances are they're outlet.
Right.
Okay. 2023-09.
This is a pole barn. This is Dave Durham's pole barn. You were saying, we were talking about this yesterday, it's in addition to an existing pole barn?
Yep, unattached from his house.
So he had an unattached structure, and this was added to it?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the project cost? Do I have it anywhere? No. It's 2023-09. Because I wonder if I could pull up the. So we could do, maybe we could do a I was thinking it was a new structure, which we couldn't do a non-substantial improvement. But if we have on the property record card, the valuation, they break it down by structure for the existing pole barn, and if it's a $20,000, and you did a $8,000 project, that would be a non-substantial. So we just gotta look at that. I don't know. He says, the permit says total construction cost is $2,500. It'll take me a little while to pull up the GIS, so maybe we'll come back. You wanna come back to that, or do you guys want to?
We can do that,
So,
2024-01.
I'm out of time.
okay.
Thank you.
Can I come with you?
You stay here. You're the citizen.
No.
This is 2401 and 03. No, this is the one you got.
That's what I.
Did I print, hold on, I might have printed it out. So we have a survey. It's not, or it's something that gives.
This is the lowest, and survey of elevations indicate the lowest adjacent grades above the FE.
So this is not a. Probably need to zoom in on that. So I don't, there's all 4 of the corners of that are 4. And then I've got a.
4, 6, 9, that corner's below.
Where are you getting that?
Here's the This report says 633.4.
Yeah, it's above, I went off an older one when I pulled BFE. Yeah, if you're 0.4, that shows it at or above,
So they're good.
so it's good.
But we
Yes.
need an elevation certificate.
You'll need certified elevations that come from the surveyor, and that's back on that other plan that he had up. Does it have surveyor engineers stamp and seal on it?
This is missing the top part of this. I think this is a picture they took.
Right.
So if this has a certified stamp or seal, so what's the technical term? Certified engineer?
Certified land surveyor.
Land surveyor or engineering one. That did the elevations. If not, an elevation certificate would fix that.
Okay.
Even if they don't have one, they might be able to just contact whoever did that and
Get one.
for no fee, they'll stamp it.
Yeah,
So, but then it's gonna come back out and redo it, they just,
Right.
they did it once, so they can just stamp it.
right. If that's showing the four corners of the building as it exists, or as it existed when it was permitted, it pulls it out of the floodplain and that covers you guys,
Okay.
because it doesn't have to follow the regulations.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
So you can do that without, okay.
As long as they have the
Yeah.
information in their permit file,
Okay.
the only caveat is, it doesn't protect them. If they put a mortgage on the property,
Right.
they're still gonna have to pay flood insurance because they didn't file for a loan.
Can they do that now, retroactively, can they do that now?
Yeah,
They could still put a hard building,
they can still apply for a loan and have it removed.
but then we wouldn't have to pay for that. I told them we'd pay for the elevation certificate, and we might have also paid for the Loma, but at least we won't have to now.
Okay. 2024-02 was a fence.
Oh, so these are not the things that were listed in, so these next pages are not what was listed in what you reached out to us in, quarter one sometime.
Yeah.
But then you asked for the 2024 and 2025 permits prior to this meeting, so I went through those as well. I mean, if you haven't already gone through them, maybe we can, I don't know if you, do we need to talk through those?
I have not looked through them. I think I meant to email you. You said that you sent them all on the 17th. I didn't get that.
Oh, Jenny sent them, okay.
I know I've had trouble with getting, like when it's a lot of attachments in one email. I know we've had trouble with that.
Yeah,
before.
so I separated.
You did that again?
Hmm?
Did you do that with these ones or?
The new ones?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. 'Cause
I didn't know you didn't receive that when I
Yeah.
sent them.
No, I was sorry. So if you could send those again.
Yeah.
At some point, that'd be great to go through.
Sure.
But I didn't get those.
Yeah, are those permits that we have to look at?
So, as part of the new cab, we're required to look through all of them since last cab, so since January. I think I may have,
Since January,
since I'm here, did the.
January 25.
oh, you asked for, we thought you needed since January 24.
Oh, that, I must have mistyped in my.
Okay, so January 25.
Yes.
Okay, so you only need,
We should have already had those as part of, right? Because when we asked for like in January of 25, we would have asked for all the permits over the last 5 or 10 years or whatever we ended up doing, or the last 10 permits, I think. So those should have been also as part of that.
I know originally it was like you asked me for some, and that's when there was just like a couple out of each year.
I was just
Okay.
plugging
Yeah.
it in because it.
And then I
died.
thought there was a request for all the permits in 24 and 25,
Okay.
which led to like probably 10 permits. There wasn't a
Yeah.
lot. So, but you didn't get all of 24 or the 25?
No,
Okay.
so what will we need to do?
David, I sent them to you.
Yeah, I
and-
got it, and I saw
okay.
that they were CC'd, but yeah, problems with the.
I
I
apologize.
should have sent you an email asking if you got it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna take those, so. I guess, yeah, we'll just get all those and look through and make sure they're okay.
Yeah, so Dave, maybe you can try to resend them to him? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, just let, it says since January 7th, 2024.
Okay. That should have said 25, but also as part of the meeting in January.
I sent 25 as well, yeah, but
Yeah, but I can send you just 25, if that's what you need.
he wanted the last.
So typically the way it works, we would ask for either the last 5 years of permits or since the last meeting date. But since with the last meeting, apparently we didn't get all the 24 ones. It'd probably still be good to look through those as well.
Okay.
So sorry if that ends up opening up.
No, it's just, I mean, all of that's in an email, so it just
Okay.
needs to get
Yeah.
sent to you so you can get it.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're prepared to, I just, we don't have the permits already, so.
And we're like to page 6, right? So we have
Yeah,
the
page
fence.
So 2024-02 is the fence.
The fence is probably fine. There's not a lot of
Fencing, as long as it's flood resistant materials, which they're inherently flood resistant, they're meant to be
So
outside.
outside marine, right?
Yeah. Okay. 2024-01 and 3 you already had.
Okay.
And so that was the whole barn
Yes.
which we just
Yeah.
looked at. So 2024-04, this is a pole barn, it's a garage. Appears to have a concrete foundation and wood frame and metal siding. It's not gonna qualify for a non-substantial improvement.
Can you pull the permit up for him so they can see it? So is always the first step, should it be like a survey, maybe just to see if it even,
Oh, yeah. And 2 fingers will let you scroll on the.
Since everything's, if it's a structure, it should probably be just elevation certificates, but, I mean, you can run a fair report to kind of show you like, is this site super close to being at BFE? And if it is, then you can say, hey, maybe get a surveyor out here.
It's not gonna be, yeah. Well, maybe it is, small chance that it's,
I took some elevations off of our online research center to work
yeah,
that we gave you the handout on.
yeah,
And most anywhere in town, we're running somewhere between 632 and 633, and the base flood elevation is 634.4 or 0.5.
yeah,
So everything's pretty much, 1.5 to 2.5 feet below.
yeah.
so,
It goes up along the railroad grade.
Yep.
That runs east-west.
Mhm.
Is that something that we noticed when we drove into town this morning? Is there a bunch of railroad ties up there, which you technically have a permit, but when I shot an elevation on them, they were, I think 635 was the approximate ground elevation up there.
Railroad ties?
Storage of materials requires a permit according to your floodplain records.
Okay.
I'm just.
that'll be fun, trying to make the railroad get a permit.
The chances of you getting the railroad to come down here and get a permit from you, the guy knows, which are probably in there right away,
Right.
probably.
Yeah,
Just gonna say.
I mean, if they're gonna claim eminent domain,
Right.
that's the way railroads are. I just wanted to mention it.
Sure.
okay,
Couldn't make light of the fact that the ground elevations appear like they're 635 up in that area, so they're half a foot above
Okay.
base flood elevation, so it's really not an
Oh,
issue.
okay, okay. Well, this is,
Well, it's only the
This
first
is-
row, because the second row, the first row is about the second row out of.
So with the
But to say
pole
the
barn,
bottom rail is great, we'll call it, it's become one with the dirt, so, it's,
so when you're building like this pole barn, if so it's got a concrete, I mean, unless they filled a little bit and then put the concrete on?
Right.
Okay, so it's not starting at the top of the concrete, it's the bottom of the concrete.
No, it's top,
Okay,
it's lowest floor, top of the lowest floor.
okay.
I mean, I could,
The top of the lowest floor.
but so that's gonna be the only, I mean,
So depending on how thick that concrete pad is.
From grade up, yes.
yeah, it's not gonna be, a flood protection grade is 2 feet above base flood, so the garage floor is not gonna be above flood protection grade.
Yeah, unless they poured
No, they don't.
3 feet of concrete.
I mean, I walked past it yesterday. It's
Okay.
not that. So now we go to the homeowner. I mean, I guess we need to get an elevation. I would recommend we just pay for the elevation certificate. I don't know if we can get a bulk discount, get the surveyor to come out and give us a 5.
And that's a possibility, I mean,
Yeah.
talk to your surveyors and find out.
Yeah,
They expect that to come out and do a group of these.
right.
They can.
I know, I don't know if he will or not. I don't know if, no, he won't do it. I don't know if he will or not.
What is this?
The director of planning and building for Lowell is a licensed surveyor,
Oh, okay.
but coming out and doing this stuff and putting your name on it, and people complaining about it,
Yeah.
he goes, don't need that headache. You know, he shoots inverse and stuff, you know, for us for sewer projects, you know, he does our little mole stuff.
Yeah,
We're kind of lucky in that fact. I mean, the town manager role is a certified, is a licensed engineer, and our director of building development is a land surveyor. And people don't realize that in town, that we have 4 people employed for the price of 2 in that deal. Our town manager doesn't live in council. You know, so what? You know, they think he's like the, you know, they think the town manager is a mayor. They don't understand how town government works, right? I mean, the town manager is the shop foreman for the town.
right.
Yeah.
You know, he does what town council tells him to do. Look after this place, come up with good ideas, and do all the stuff we tell you to do. That's kind of your job as the town manager.
Yeah.
And get yelled at on a daily basis by somebody who is actually a tree branch from your yard.
So this is one that, I mean, since it's a steel siding, like metal siding, I think it's a pole barn, maybe it's framed up differently, but like,
Pretty sure.
pole barn, okay. So, to bring that into compliance, the only route available is elevation, which is on, it's gonna be on a concrete slab, so I'm gonna elevate the concrete slab.
Right.
Or it's on a,
Right, that's my question.
or
I don't think the whole barn has been built that, there's no way to flood proof it.
well, the dry flood proofing, you just make it really strong.
What's that?
The dry flood proofing is the other option, but that's,
Yeah,
Do that
there's
for
that
existing
floor slab
building.
even thick enough to, some concrete slabs, that floor slab even thick enough to,
right,
counteract the effects of buoyancy that would be present.
yeah,
So again, that's one that you need that floor elevation to see what the options are, the size of the structure.
okay,
It may be one to add flood openings to it and wet flood proof it, provided it's not being used to store hazardous materials and any equipment that's already elevated.
wet,
For
What flood
Well,
proof would be to put
Put
wood
flood
vents in it
openings
so
in
it
it
can flow through the
to where
building
water can flow through it,
and not take it away.
without pressure.
providing you haven't got hazardous chemicals stored directly on the floor and got a plan for that, and any electric or anything is elevated to the proper height. You could issue a variance to that, because putting fill in or anything else that would have a steep incline, it wouldn't be navigable to get back, but it's something that could be justifiable. Lot size, if the lot size is less than a half acre,
Oh, yeah, it is.
I assume that was pretty much every lot in town.
Yeah. I mean, the lots are the 60.
There's things like that you can do to have a justifiable variance
Okay,
that may give you some relief to some of those and how they're approached. I don't like to use variances because many communities like to offer variances willy-nilly and they don't give the proper justification. But if you could write something up to where, you know, if we put fill in to elevate this thing, it's gonna push all this water over onto the neighbors, and the incline from the street would be so steep that it'd be hard to get into it or couldn't walk up it.
yeah. Because I was thinking to dry flood proof it, you're basically, it's like the cost of rebuilding it, you know, like, because you,
Yeah, basically, with dry flood, more than likely you would have to extend the foundation, or that slab, pour a concrete wall
right,
that would encase any post
yeah,
up to that flood protection grade and make the bottom, and then add stop logs at any overhead doors or anything like that,
yeah,
and would likely be cost prohibitive.
okay. Yeah, because I was thinking like, that's gonna be tens of thousands of dollars, but cost prohibitive is a nice way of saying that. So variance is an option, or wet flood proofing is an option. Like wet flood proofing doesn't.
In
comply with
combination
the
with the variance,
okay,
because I'm assuming it's greater than 400 square feet.
yeah.
So what is wet flood proofing? Would that be the vents?
The flood
venting?
vents or the flood vents.
Okay, so they would have to,
freely pass through.
so they would have to, because we don't have that in our ordinance, they would have to apply for a variance to do that?
Yes.
Okay,
And
Or you guys would have to basically do the application and stuff at no cost, however you wanted to work that with the property owner to get the issue resolved or mitigated.
okay,
okay, but the first step is to get the elevation certificate. And
Or at least an elevation, so we know
because
what the degree of the variance would be and where it's actually at.
so we could get the non-elevation, so just the elevation, because we're not going to be like, if it's at above, the lowest station grade is above base flood, then we want the elevation certificate. We're going to need that for the file. But if it's just informational, where we don't need the certificate, we could just have the surveyor. Can you tell us the elevation of this, but we don't need the certified form, that might cost less.
Right.
Okay. And then we can figure out the variance route. Okay. Great, that's helpful, it's very helpful.
All right, 2024-05, Euclid Street for a roof for $1,600.
So that would resolve that one.
yeah, cause this, okay, so this is just a re-roof, so like you said that was,
That was maintenance.
this is maintenance,
With that substantial improvement. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, if it's a standalone re-roof, you can consider it maintenance, but
That's all that
it's
was.
better if you have that file in there that says you did the substantial improvement determination, that's what it is. We've got a handful, I mean, it's a small handful out of 453 communities in the state of Indiana. We've got a handful of communities that actually have a cumulative improvement language in their ordinance. So every little thing you do, that structure counts,
Right.
and it goes back for 10 years.
Wow.
So anything in that 10-year period, so it's a rolling calendar, so.
So maintenance would really matter to
Yeah.
exclude maintenance on that.
2025-01.
So this was the insurance estimate I showed you, is where the cost came from.
Okay,
Yeah.
And you got a list of other questions here. Comprehensive handbook. That floodplain administrator's guidebook that he gave you, and we also have our quick guide that is posted on our website, been there since late June. The Indiana Quick Guide for Floodplain Management, it's on our website, they wouldn't let us print it, but you can download it from the website, it's a very good reference. I've had a community just last week, we did a meeting with, tell me that they've already printed it and they've got it in their office, because that's got a lot of cute pictures in it. So you can walk right up to the counter when you're talking to somebody about a building permit and flip to a page and say, this is what I mean by interior grade of your crawl space being above exterior grade on at least one side. It's got a diagram that shows that. And it good, real easy terminology and stuff explains the substantial improvement stuff that we talked about on several of these projects. Inspecting, evaluating, the first one under what legal authority, we found that in the ordinance earlier. Found inspections.
So we're not demanding that, so the correcting, we're requesting, and, like, we can't.
I just, for any of these older ones that were permitted incorrectly and you don't have the documentation for, I just call them and talk to them and say, hey, this is what happened. Under the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program, since we're a participating community, we need to get this information. And you can either ask them to provide it, which most of them are probably going to tell you, I want to give you everything you asked for. Just ask for permission to come in and get the information so we can get things mitigated and move forward.
Do you have, what, do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it seems to me we have the building at Cartwright, we've got two full ones, those are the three outstanding. And we're gonna get a formal, we're gonna get a stamp drawing for the wedding venue. Those are the four things we got outstanding, so we took that whole list down right here, sitting here, to four. Which are two pole barns, Cartwright, and the wedding venue. The wedding venue, pretty much, we agreed it's okay, we just need something stamped that says it's okay.
Yes.
Cartwright we gotta talk to, and then the two pole barn people we gotta talk to.
And
And the pool person will send a letter, give a send letter, and they'll take their stuff in.
2023-09 was one of the pole bars, right? It was 20, so the cost they gave was 2,500, and I just pulled out the property record card, and it's 8,400 is the depreciated value of just the pole barn. So that's in 50%.
It's less than 50%.
Yeah.
So it's not an issue.
So I'll just gotta get the documentation on that.
Just give us the documentation on that. That'll
Yeah, which one's that?
Yeah,
2023.
Page 4.
yeah, page 4.
So for page 4, we're just gonna make up one of these?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that one's okay.
So we're down to carburet, on page 1, that's I mean, the big problem is we're gonna have to contact them and we don't, like, I know we still gotta get that stamped elevation for the wedding venue, but like, that's easy. That's not, you know, I already told them to pay for it, because there's some other things with them we're trying to resolve it. That seems like the right call.
This,
And then we resolved everything on page 2, and on page 3,
Sign letter.
okay.
yeah.
Yes, we have to pump and stuff where we don't have any chemicals or anything on the flood waters.
Right. Page 4.
So is it a good idea to just get that with any pool, like anybody with a pool, even if we see somebody that's got even a pool that, like the non-permanent pools, to get a letter saying that they need to get that, or if it's, are these only permittable things?
It's a good idea, but most of them, like their portable pools and stuff that they put up on an annual basis, and
Mm-hmm.
taking the garage or whatever during the winter.
But they just have to take it, put it in their garage in the winter.
What's the point? I mean,
Okay,
as long as they, because those are on power cord anyway, they're plugged into the wall typically.
okay,
You got that, if you got a letter, that would just be more protection for you guys at the town level. It give you a level of protection in the anticipation of a flood. You disconnect the pump and take it inside so nobody gets electrocuted out there.
yeah,
Because the pumps themselves aren't an issue because they're underwater. They're a submersible pump on most pools.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the motor on the permanent pools, it's the motor that sits there beside the pump.
Right.
yeah,
And stuff, when floodwaters comes up, is that gonna discharge? How long is it gonna be before it trips that break?
Right.
Not long with a permanent installed pool, because they gotta be on a GFCI disconnect.
Yeah.
Or GFCI breaker.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay. Well, it's smart to even have your non-permanent pool on GFCI, and they
Yeah.
usually sell them with them in the plug.
Yeah. Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
I've got one online, but I
Yeah.
stretched an extension cord down. The extension cord's probably above flood protection grade where I plug it in.
Yeah, yeah. So page 4, I'll send you the non-substantial improvement paperwork. Page 5, oh, you just gotta get the stamped elevation. That was the wedding venue.
Yeah.
Then page 6, we resolved the first one. It was the fence, didn't need anything.
yeah,
The
Yeah.
second one is that,
to do a variance to allow floodproofing, wet front floodproofing,
yeah,
and then the other one's maintenance, so there's nothing.
yeah. And then,
Yeah, the 24-04 on page 6, yeah, just give floor elevation to determine what's the best route to mitigate it.
okay. And then page 7, both of those were.
Both of those were resolved.
So, but you also need the permit, so I'll send you the permits on all those, so, yeah.
So could I, because I'm gonna attach these to the permits, can I get one of your guys' signatures that you accepted these? I just wrote DNR approval of permit deficiency correction. I'm just talking on my auditor that it's better to have signatures on everything. The other one will be emailed, and when you guys accept it, that email of acceptance is good enough for me to put in there. I mean, of course, going forward, we won't, we'll just have this, but.
Yeah.
It's a nice signature you have there.
The guy should be working on it, said, you should have been a doctor with that signature.
Well, you can read it though. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I need to send you the permits, that Jim sent, and then, there's still some actions to resolve these. One thing, the non-substantial improvement, put that together quickly. And then we just gotta resolve the last few. What other things do we need to do?
The permit process is kind of drafting, finalized version of that.
Okay.
And then that's kind of a combined process and application. Right?
Yeah, so what I would like to do with that is just, you know, the permit that you've seen, and then the packet that David made to be internal,
Okay.
and then, you know, and just the inspector, and then we, you know, make sure all those things are final, all that documented,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
we need to like
Yeah, so we
have
can-
that structure, like actually, I guess like an SOP of how permits are done, okay.
So we need that and then the actual application, and then once we get all that, your ordinance is good, I think we're good.
And then so we'll have to be in some of these where we're, resolving the permits. We might need some help moving on the path of how to, you know, once we get some more data on the elevation, talk to the property owners. So the metal, the steel building for, can we go back to the first permit that we were talking about? That's the carburetor, on page 1. I guess maybe we just need to report it before we talk through that. I was trying to think, because we kind of came up with a plan with the garage, but we knew what it was from seeing it. Like, I haven't driven by this cargo building; it's inside the fence, so I don't really know much about it.
Right, yeah, before we can really even discuss possible mitigation measures, or if it even needs mitigating,
Yeah,
we need to have those four heights.
yeah, but we also need, I guess, to know a little bit about like are the mechanicals in there,
Right.
I don't even know what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
Hazardous materials. That was one of the questions you asked us. So.
Yeah, they weren't even asked to submit a picture, so we don't even know,
Yeah.
we just know the dimension.
Oh, okay. The only reason I even know it's there is they water it when they're building it. Went in there to look at it, that's the only thing I know about it.
Yeah. So maybe we go over together to talk to them. Do you want to do it without?
I don't care, you wanna go, we can go together,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
We're trying to do a phone call and then go from there.
Right. Do we also have to talk with them about something else? The water.
There's lots of
Meters.
things, yeah, there's lots of things,
So.
questions.
Okay. Okay, so resolve the outstanding permits, send you those permits, and then the finalized permit process and application for SOPs and the applications.
That will be covered in the
Letter.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, okay, what are our to-dos, but it's awesome to get back.
You had on here too about determining the floodway.
Yeah.
It's not an issue for the town.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, so.
There's no floodway within the town. We do actually have a map at the office where we show a floodway on the Kankakee River,
Yeah.
but it doesn't extend
Okay.
to the town.
Because I was looking at the firm map and it didn't seem to have a floodway marked. But
It does not show a floodway
Okay.
on the firm.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if you know this, but does it show a floodway on the south side of the river? Do you remember?
No.
Really?
So,
No, the Kankakee is just a strange way. believe it is zone AE
Mhm.
shown on the firm,
Yeah.
but there's no floodway. When I was at Carroll County, when I first went over to Carroll County, we had zone AE with no floodway delineated. And that kind of tripped me up on a couple of permits
Okay.
that I didn't require out of the state, and the state compliance, one of the state compliance officers called me and says, "Hey Doug, do you know anything about this project?" I'm like, "Yeah, I permitted it locally." It's like, "Why'd you do that? It's in the floodway." Said there wasn't a floodway on the map.
Right.
But that didn't follow my ordinance.
Right.
Because the ordinance says that I need to go to DNR to determine what the floodway is. But the floodway for the Kansas Creek doesn't extend up here. You don't have any water course within town limits that is greater than 1 square mile range.
We're just in a flood fringe everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. So can we take those questions off of our permit, since it's always the same answer? Or of our application form?
Whether it's floodplain or flood fringe,
Yeah.
you can just designate that it's fringe.
Yeah.
Let's make that state.
So make it a checkbox.
The town of Schneider.
Check.
So change it, I like that, changing it to a checkbox, so then that'll key us to update it if something changes. I like
Yeah.
that.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Instead of asking, are you in a designated floodway, we can just say that you're not, it's this,
Put a checkbox in there that says flood fringe and have it permanently checked. Just make it part of the form that box is always
Okay,
checked.
and that's
Because there is no floodway within the town limits.
this,
yeah. So that'll take one of those paragraphs off and turn it into just one line that's pre-checked.
so the designated floodway will always be no or yes?
It'll always be no.
Okay,
Or it should be floodway or fringe, probably how you.
It's always gonna be fringe.
Right, so floodway is fringe, yeah, okay.
Article 5, Section B, subsection 8, any alteration, repair, reconstruction, or improvements to structure that is in compliance with the provisions of this ordinance shall meet the requirements of new construction as contained in the ordinance. You're kind of asking what that means. So basically, if you've got a compliant structure sitting out there somewhere and they want to do an addition or other improvement to that structure, anything that they do to the structure, they can't bring the structure out of compliance.
So what does a structure in compliance mean?
It meets all the requirements of your ordinance, that big long list of stuff. It's elevated to the flood protection grade, it has the proper flood openings in it. If it's supported on a above grade crawl space, it's got the proper openings in it and everything.
That's
Yeah.
kind of saying, if you were to take something that's compliant and then do like a non-substantial improvement on it, then the structure still has to stay compliant.
Okay, it's not saying that,
So you couldn't do a room addition at grade to an elevated structure, which would bring it out of compliance.
okay, it's not saying that if you have a non-compliant structure, okay, well, that's no question, it says compliant structures. I didn't know what compliant or non-compliant structure meant. I mean, it sounds like you're saying structure that meets the requirements of new construction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is very few, or maybe zero of our structures. But it's not saying that if you, I thought maybe it was saying if you do a non-substantial improvement to an existing structure, the work you do in the non-substantial improvement has to meet the new, the requirements of the new structure that you have to use on flood-proof materials below.
It's basically saying that, but only if that existing structure is compliant,
Yeah.
fully compliant.
Yeah, okay, cool.
In other words, pole barn, it's got all the venting and everything, you can't do anything to block the venting.
Right.
Yeah. Or add an addition that's lower,
Yeah.
you know, lower grade. Okay. Because I was wondering, like, wait, did that just make all of the requirements of non-substantial or new construction apply to anything? But, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to what you're saying.
so I have a question. Now, earlier when I emailed 2 permits, and then, David asked a bunch of questions if this permit needed to be changed. Should this be added, should this be added, or is it fine? I believe the answer that you gave was the permit is fine. Some of those questions just need to be done internally. So I guess my question is, was the permit that was submitted okay to use?
Do you know about with like a permit that's submitted that we just went?
The application, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the applications, were those okay?
For the prior permits from last year?
No, the new applications that were emailed to you.
I gotta put it out.
Okay.
It was a
I was
miscellaneous,
thinking,
it was a miscellaneous permit and, a pool permit that we had just made, and we had started using.
And I was thinking of non-substantial improvements and thinking that those details would have to be in here somehow. But if we can do them internal, that's great.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, because
so-
David said, in addition, like a bunch of questions of things should be added. But, so I need to know if I need to tweak these things a little bit more before using them, or if they're fine as written, and then just everything else internal.
Maybe we put on for office use, our part that we fill out later, a little
Right.
non-substantial yes or no.
Well-
Maybe that's the only thing
Right, but that's what I need to know.
I can work with you on that, but if you guys.
Well, I mean, if he's okay with it as is, then just leave it alone. I prefer.
Think they'll good?
Well,
Do you wanna?
why don't we take them back to the office
Yeah.
and take a look at them and then
Yeah,
get back to you on it?
Okay.
okay.
In our drive around this morning, there was, a couple of structures, they were older, but probably within the last 10 or 15 years, I'm guessing, they looked like they were elevated and stuff. Noticed that they didn't have flood openings, they had the old air vents that we used to put in up just below the box sill, up high in the foundation, but there wasn't any flood openings. We did see one structure as well that had like a concrete block turned sideways for flood openings.
Okay.
Whether it was enough or not, whether it was compliant, I don't know, but it appeared like it may have been. But it may not have had enough opening space to be compliant, but just things to be aware of.
Okay. Are you gonna send us, is gonna be the additional list of things we have to remediate?
We didn't see anything, I was just bringing those to your
Okay.
attention because it appears the one is, over on Cottage Grove. It's an elevated, it looks like a manufacturer modular home. The foundation's 3.5, 4 feet above grade.
Yeah.
Where it's sitting, it's got a deck, at least on the 2 sides of it, 2 or 3 sides of it, that you can see from the street going by, but it didn't have any flood openings in it.
Right. I'm familiar with that house, it used to be my brother-in-law's.
That's a little bit of I kinda understand why that is too, though, we too for building, I mean, in the NRC, we're not doing ventilated crawl spaces anymore, right now, crawl spaces are conditioned space.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not,
Yeah.
so nobody's gonna, right, so you gotta break that.
Right,
You gotta break
now
that.
we're doing conditions.
You can't have a conditioned space, crawl space, if we're bringing it up out of the elevated floodway. So,
Well, you can still do it as a conditioned space, but you have to use the insulated flood openings, engineered flood openings, because they're insulated, they work off of floats inside, they only open up when floodwaters come up.
That's cool.
They're completely sealed and insulated.
okay.
They fit an 8x16 block opening.
Okay. So should we
Those are some good.
contact some of these people and recommend that they do those?
That's up to you. I mean,
Okay.
it's,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big a deal because with a foot and a half,
Kind of an issue.
with a 100-year flood, you're looking at a foot and a half to 2.5 feet of water.
So it's not gonna crush their block?
It, that ain't gonna keep in their block foundation.
Okay. Keep it clear.
There'll be some water
Yeah,
But it isn't gonna cave it
yeah, okay,
in, and that's if it even reaches the 100-year level.
right.
I mean, I live in White County and worked in Carroll County before I went to the state. And since 2008, I think there's been 3 or 4 times that the Tiffany River in Carroll County's been above the 100-year flood.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so the 100-year flood, I know it doesn't mean it happens every 100 years, it means it's a 1% chance every year. So
Yeah, and people get flood amnesia.
right,
2 to 3 years after that last flood, they forget about it, they sell their properties and leave it to the next
Well, that's kind of-
unknowing person.
Last time we had flood issues anywhere around here was, I don't remember the date, but it was in Munster.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It came through Munster, it knocked houses off the foundation, caved in walls, and it was all in Munster. Where you're kind of like, huh?
yeah.
I've been here for over 30 years and I haven't seen any flooding yet.
78, I think.
But even that, though, we never got to any house.
No. I do know a couple people that have turned,
And
they
I don't
have
think
turned
you-
like their garage in for flood damage.
I don't
within
even
the
think
last
the 2008
10 years.
floods come through here, got back that far out of the banks on the Kankakee. The central to southern Indiana and far northern and more to the eastern side, Elkhart and some of those areas.
We had issues in Wildwood just a few years
had
ago.
a lot of flooding in 08.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in this business then.
You're familiar with that bridge? It's nowhere near around here. It was in Honduras. That valley flooded regularly, and they brought in teams of engineers, and they engineered, because that bridge kept getting taken out.
Yeah.
So they built a flood-proof bridge, and they did. And then the last time that the hurricane and all that waters came through there, it rerouted the river. Now the river doesn't flow to the bridge anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Well, almost made it.
Yeah, the water wants to win.
Yeah. You moved over to 100 yards.
So it's, that was pretty impressive. Are you guys familiar with Turkey Run State Park?
A little bit, came down there a few times, been to a few meetings there, we had a,
You know that suspension bridge that they have there?
yeah.
And that was destroyed by flood, got up there.
Mm-hmm.
That just amazes me.
Yeah, I did know that, because they pointed that out on, we went down there for a regional coordination meeting. We have annually, typically, we have a spring and a fall coordination meeting with FEMA Region 5. Invites all the states in Region 5, FEMA staff. And 2 years ago, we had it at Turkey Run State Park, and I had set up, I'm the one that organized it on the state side, so we had set up with their naturalist to take a guided tour. We went past the suspension bridge, and she was telling about it being destroyed by floodwaters
And that thing's about 20 feet above the normal.
yeah. Well, in 2015,